My Hero Academia chapter 337 review. At the end we explain why Aoyama might sacrifice himself to save Deku from All For One. Also, only small percentage of the people who watch our videos are actually subscribed, so if you end up liking this video, consider subscribing. Please enjoy this video, let's go! My Hero Academia chapter 337 begins with Dabi speaking to All For One and asking if it could be bad for them if the UA students find out about the traitor. All For One says it doesn't really matter and seriously compares Aoyama to a 100 yen lighter, which is about $1, and asks if anyone will get sad if such a lighter stopped working. I mean, how sick do you have to be to compare a human life to a lighter? And as if that wasn't enough, to also put a price tag on it with a value of less than $1? It just shows how evil All For One really is. You know, there are these antagonists where you feel like you can somehow still change their minds. Dabi, for example, is one of those, or Toga, but All For One is literally incapable of change. He doesn't care about his allies or any human being. His empathy is literally zero. I love that he has no reason for his evilness other than a god complex, and that nothing happened in his past that made him the person he is today. And yet it fits his character so well that you don't even question his intentions. If Aoyama and his parents succeed, that's great, and if not, he will focus on the next path that can get him to his goal. Here he is referring to the many paths that he has prepared in recent years. Any villain who has heard what All For One has said should ask themselves if it is really best to join forces with All For One. Dabi doesn't really care about his or anyone's life as long as he can get revenge on his father. But I can imagine that Toga, for example, might actually betray All For One. Change of location to the forest where Aoyama has been exposed as a traitor. Aoyama's parents try to escape, while Aoyama cries and remembers his past when he was a child and had all the joy in the world. But the fact that Aoyama was born without a quirk turned all the joy into sadness. So his parents decided to take drastic measures to make Aoyama happy again by asking All For One to give Aoyama a quirk, not knowing how this decision will change their lives. The quirk Aoyama received was not compatible with his body, so his parents did their best to get him equipment to use his quirk. He was looking forward to realizing his dream, but then All For One started his evil game. We know that many years ago he did the same thing to the first generation of quirk users. First he took away quirks from people who didn't want to have a quirk, and then he gave quirks to those who were born without a quirk. But then he suddenly demanded something in return. And so he also began to demand something in return from Aoyama by giving him orders. And then we actually see all the orders that he gave to Aoyama. And this is very interesting because this is the latest order that Aoyama has received but not yet fulfilled. Now that Izuku Midoriya has returned to UA, make him act on his own again. And now think about it. Why would Horikoshi decide to reveal the last order that All For One gave to Aoyama when Aoyama was caught anyway and didn't even try to fulfill the last order? The only reason I can see is that the last order might in some way indicate All For One's strategy. The fact that All For One doesn't want Deku to work with the UA students or heroes shows that we were wrong when we said that All For One wanted Deku to return to the UA, because he didn't even try to confront Deku when Deku was completely alone. However, now considering that All For One ordered Aoyama to get Deku to act alone again, it shows that he most likely didn't try to capture him not because he wanted Deku in UA, but because Shigaraki's transformation simply wasn't complete yet. So All For One really doesn't want Deku to be in the UA shelter, which theoretically means that he shouldn't have a way in, for example through the underground tunnel system. But then why was the tunnel system introduced with such detail? Like the fact that it's connected to this one other hero school. We have received so much information about the security system that it almost looks like it will be used at some point, which means that All For One will attack UA. And Bakugo also prepared us for this possibility, saying that it is impossible to find All For One and that they must prepare for his attack. Before my partner Yami continues with this video, please take a moment to like this video. Thank you.
All For One also mentioned that even if Aoyama was caught, he would have other paths that would eventually lead him to his goal. So there may be another traitor. Aoyama then says that after reading Deku's letter, he fell into despair. He cries and tries to shoot a laser at Midoriya, but Hagakure reflects it. She asks him how would he feel if everyone died, and then the face of Hagakure is finally revealed. I'm not gonna lie, Seeing her crying and act like that makes it really hard to believe that she could be a possible second traitor, and I'm leaning towards her actually being innocent. But I wouldn't be surprised if she too is suddenly revealed as a traitor, because there's just too much evidence that both Aoyama and Hagakure could have become the UA traitor. But as I said, at the moment there is no evidence for a second traitor. Deku ties all three with his black whip and takes them to the UA. Aoyama and his parents are tied to chairs in front of Scouchi, several teachers and all the students of class 1A who are very shocked. Scouchi asks them to reveal everything they know about All for One, but the father says they know nothing. They had only received the quirk and followed orders. All for One even showed them dead bodies so that they would understand what would happen if they failed or lied to him. Let's face it, everyone would have done the same thing in that situation. Aoyama even tried to secretly tell Deku about All for One and that he too has a body that is not suitable for his quirk. Twice Aoyama tried to let Deku know that something was wrong, and if All for One had noticed the cheese message or the engraving that Aoyama made during the quirk training, that would have been enough to kill Aoyama and both of his parents. Aoyama then starts to say that because all of his classmates that he might have to kill were so nice to him, he became closer to everyone. And it's just as we suspected how the UA traitor would be. He joined this school with a specific goal in mind, which was to spy on everyone in his class and possibly indirectly eliminate them. But over time, he genuinely made friends. This was shown in the forest when Aoyama told his parents that he didn't want to follow All for One's orders anymore because he knew that if he got Deku to act on his own again, All for One would definitely come after him this time, which he is trying to avoid. After reading Deku's letter and finding out the truth about his quirk and his fight against All for One, he despairs of his own misery. He says that he is a villain with every fiber of his being, and even his soul is rotten. Then Deku shouts that if that were really the case, he wouldn't have tried to save Tokoyami and Bakugo at the training camp. He also wouldn't have written the message with cheese, which was actually a cry for help that Deku himself didn't realize at that time. He goes on to say that Aoyama is crying now not because he failed to obey All for One, but because he doesn't want to betray his friends. Deku believed that no one should be called a villain for the rest of their life because of a single crime. He asks Aoyama to take his hand because he can still become a hero. There might be a little problem with this traitor plot if there was no consequence at all. The only reason a traitor was used in the first place would then only be because Horikoshi needed an explanation as why the villains could attack the USJ or the training camp, and now it would all be easy to expose the traitor with a happy ending. I'm not saying it's bad. The chapter is certainly very good and emotional, and also the reason why Aoyama did what he did is understandable. He's protecting his parents, but at the same time he genuinely loves his friends. He's confronted with an inner conflict that has been hinted at several times, and it was also hinted that he might be a traitor even before the idea of a traitor was officially mentioned. Horikoshi even made a very obvious illustration showing Aoyama's inner struggle. The emotional aspect is perfect, and Aoyama became a much more complex character with a lot of quality and emotional investment. But something is still missing to close the traitor plot. Accepting Deku's hand and offer will still not be enough for Aoyama to become a true hero. He has to prove that he really wants to be a hero and trust his friends that they won't allow either of him or his parents to be hurt, who are now safely in UA. Aoyama has to prove not only to the heroes and his friends, but also to himself that he really is a hero. Aoyama struggles with his own misery, dreaming of becoming a hero, but knowing he is a villain. So, to perfectly conclude this traitor plot, Aoyama has to do something in the future, probably in the last war of My Hero Academia, that will show him and everyone else that he is a true hero. It could be some kind of self-sacrifice, or maybe he will save Deku. Imagine All for One wants to steal Deku's quirk, but instead Aoyama jumps in between and gets the quirk stolen that he wanted so much to become a hero with, but which in the end forced him to be a villain. He would give up on his biggest dream to save the world by saving Deku. Something like that would be the perfect ending to the traitor plot. So that's it for today, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to smash the like button, and if you're new to our channel, make sure you subscribe with the notification bell turned on. See you guys in the next video. Yami out.